Hey there, music team. We are back into our study of our music and understanding our music better. And today we're going to start a 4 or 5 part series on pitch. We're trying something different. We're going to try to keep the videos shorter just for you, because the last one for rhythm and tempo was too long, and we will definitely go back and redo that and not have an hour-long video for you to have to sit through. What a drudge. Super sorry about that. Today, we're going to get started on pitch, and we're going to be talking about pitch relationships. And this whole video series, this whole chunk about musical pitches, the point of it all is that musical pitches are not absolute. They don't exist in a vacuum. They are defined by their relationship to one another. Here at Fellowship, we actually have a core value to love others, and that's all about having loving relationships. And we say all the time that our faith is about people and about relationships. And music, and the fact that everything in music is so relational, to me is just evidence of when the scripture says that creation declares the glory of God. Here's music, and it's all about relationships, just like our faith is. It's not any different, okay? So, why should we be caring about learning these different things, learning about these specific relationships in the music that we practice? And that's because understanding our music and our songs will allow us to better lead others to participate rather than our songs leading us. When we deeply understand the music we're about to sing, play, whatever we're going to do with it, we become more free to bring others into that with us. In much the same way that a teacher teaches a subject better that they understand deeply, we can bring others with us on that journey better if we understand our music and what our music is doing. And that's the whole point of every video we're going to make about trying to understand our music. That's always going to be the thing. That's why you should care about this, because you want to be a great worship leader, not just a person who sings, or not just a person who plays, or even a person who plays well or sings well. You want to be someone with a deep understanding that can invite others to go with you. Okay? So today, as we're talking about pitch relationships, we need to know how pitches relate to one another. Pitches actually relate to one another in much the same way that we relate where things are located, and that is with a measurement of distance. Right? If I told you that I have, a bookcase on this wall, and it's related to the wall in that it is 1/2 inch off of the wall. Or I might tell you that I've got a couch in the middle of my living room, and you can find the exact relationship of that couch to the other things in it by getting out your tape measure and measuring how far away it is from each one of those things. We can do the exact same thing with our musical pitches. Okay? And we have a unit of measurement. That unit of measurement is called the half step. Okay? And there is a whole step made up of 2 half steps. For those of you who love fractions and don't want to do everything in halves, you're welcome to do that. But we're trying to keep this at the core relational measurement, and we call it a half step in music. All right? Now, a half step is the audible distance. It's the distance you can hear from one key to the next on a keyboard, regardless of the color of the key. So you'll see from this white key to this white key, there's no black key in the middle. That's a half step. Similarly, from this black key to this white key, there is a black key in between here, but it's one key to whichever key is next to it. That's a half step. And you can really hear that if you get onto the keyboard. So I'm going to come over here to my keyboard. I'm just going to play a half step. Okay? So here's a half step. And you may recognize that half step as the theme from Jaws if I played it a little lower. And you get that theme from Jaws. It's a half step. But if I move that, I played it from a white key to a black key. If I move that to 2 white keys that are side by side, instead of a white key to a black key, that half step. It still sounds like the Jaws theme. And that's because our ears are not actually listening for this note or that note. What our ears listen to and hear is the distance in between those notes. All right? And we should have a name for what we call that distance, right? That's not just X amount of half steps, right? We call a distance, when we measure something, we call it a measurement of 5 inches or what have you. We call these intervals, all right? And so an interval is that total distance between your two pitches. And they actually all have names, which we will go over briefly. The names themselves are not critically important. The names are just for you to have a reference. So here are the names of those things. So all the way up to an octave, we have names for these things. So a 1/2 step is that theme from Jaws. You might recognize it. And we call that a minor second. 2 half steps, we call that a major second. And there's a very recognizable song that is attached to this as well. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And so that major second, that distance, that is the start of happy birthday. And then we have a minor third, which is 3 half steps. A major third, which is 4 half steps. We have a perfect fourth, which is 5 half steps. That's one of the more recognizable distances, being that it's the wedding march. Here comes the bride. We have, in between the perfect fourth and the perfect fifth, we have something called a tritone. It's got a weird name. It gets that name because when you play them together, it almost sounds like there's a third pitch. We have the perfect fifth, which is the theme from Star Wars, opening to the theme from Star Wars. We have the minor sixth, the major sixth, the minor seventh, the major seventh. Then we have the perfect octave, which we would consider actually both of those notes in a perfect octave the same note. We might call it a unison octave. And that's what those different things would be called. Okay? Now, the reason that it's good for us to know that we are listening for a distance instead of listening for specific pitches is that it frees us if we have to change a key. Or maybe we just need to sing a different part today. We can find a reference in distance from some other pitch that we know always plays, but maybe you have a bass player and they're always playing this. And you know that the pitch that you start on for this harmony part that you don't normally sing is here. And you can learn to listen actively for that distance. And that gives you a lot of freedom, because as you practice those things at first, just like anything, it's really hard and really challenging to do. But as you continue to practice that thing, it will become second nature. And then you stop having to think about it. And when you're no longer thinking about it and it's second nature, and that's when you have that deep understanding of the thing, that's when you're going to experience a lot of freedom to lead others in what's going on, because you're no longer thinking, oh gosh, I got to get all the way up to this, and I got to get all the way up to that note, because what you're used to is that distance becomes a second-hand thing that you learn how to do naturally. Just like somebody who maybe learns how to walk a specific distance of measurement with their feet, and then they can measure a room just by walking across it. You have that ability. You can learn that ability. That's something that can be practiced until you achieve it, and that will free you to not have to think about that so much, so you can guide others. Just like that guy who can walk across the room and measure it, he's really free to look at you and go, yeah, this is about this much space, so you need this much carpet, and he can really help guide you as you're working to do flooring or paint your wall or whatever you're going to be doing, right? You're going to guide others. You're going to lead others in that same way. Okay? So there's a couple of practical exercises that we can do to help us get better at this. Okay? So we're going to be doing some practical exercises here. The first one is move your melodic lines starting points. Let me show you what I mean. We talked about happy birthday. Happy birthday goes like this. Okay? That's the opening line to happy birthday. And what you can do as you work out what those things are, you can look at your keyboard. You can see how many half steps, how many keys are between one thing and the next. So I know that's a major second to go up to. Happy birthday. That's a major second back down. 2, and I can count that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps. So that was a perfect fourth if you wanted to use those terms, but that doesn't really matter. You had 2 half steps at the beginning, and then you have 5 half steps for this one. 2, that's 1 half step, or the minor second. And so then you can take that. So I've got 2 half steps up, 2 half steps down, 5 half steps up, 1 half step down. And I can go put that anywhere else on this keyboard. I can put it right here on a black key that I might never normally do. So that's 2 half steps up and 2 half steps back down. Then I got to go 5 half steps up, and I can just count that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1 half step down. And suddenly I can play Happy Birthday anywhere I want to on my piano. And that's going to work for every song you'll ever sing. There are no exceptions to that. It always works, which is an amazing, amazing thing. If you don't know how to maybe find a starting pitch, maybe you're listening to a song and you're practicing a song and you're trying to figure out how to find that first pitch, that way you can find the next pitch and you can work through that. You can't find that by ear right now. That's okay. The next video is going to show you how to find that because it's written out and you can go on a little journey to be able to find that. All right. The next practical exercise you can do is to exercise your ear. Our ears and the thing that we do here in music, they're physical pieces of our body. And we can exercise them. And we can learn to be better masters of them and bring our bodies under submission. And so something we can do is we can sit down at a keyboard again and listen to that half step and listen to that half step somewhere else until our brain just naturally goes, that's what the half step sounds like. And we can always we can play this. Boom. And we can always go find that. And we can always find that half step. We can always find 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. Yep, I missed on my keyboard. So we can always go la and find that. It becomes second nature to us. That's exactly the kinds of things we can exercise our ear to do. Now, maybe you don't own a keyboard. And that's totally okay because what's available to us now on our smartphones is amazing. There are amazing keyboard and piano apps that will allow us to do all of these things that I'm doing on this keyboard in front of me on our phone by simply tapping a virtual key. So you can still exercise your ears and you can still practice moving melodic lines, starting points, and then following the number of half steps that you have. Okay? So remember, the whole point of this is that these musical pitches that we're doing, they're not absolute. They're defined by their relationships to one another. And we want to learn this and we want to care about this because understanding our music is going to allow us to be better worship leaders, to be able to lead others to participate. We don't want to be dragged around by our songs. We want to be in charge of our music. That's the end of this segment. Our next segment, we're going to talk about how to find a reference. Maybe you don't play by ear. Maybe you need to do a lot of ear training. Or maybe you just don't want to be bothered to learn how to play by ear. We're going to show you how to find it because almost everything that we do has it written out for us so we can learn and figure out where things are without having to fumble our way through quite so much.